Now we are on card five, the Hierophant. So the number five is about change. The number five is also about lessons. Like with change, we often learn deep lessons, right? So if we're still on the Fool's journey, with the Fool representing us in life's lessons, life's growth, all of that, life's journey, coming off of the Emperor, we are now getting into this energy of learning lessons. So learning and experiencing change and learning how different changes in our lives, whether they feel positive in the moment or negative in the moment, heavily impact us when it comes to spiritual growth and just life growth overall. So the number five carries a lot of that energy. The number five can also represent unity and like the energy of like community. So the Hierophant can often sometimes be associated with institutions of some kind, whether it's school or some other group, a collective group that has a similar belief system, such as spiritual groups, things like that. The Hierophant is also the energy of like, we think of them often as like a spiritual teacher. So whether it is you that is taking on the energy as a spiritual teacher, or whether you are one of the people looking for guidance from a spiritual teacher. And it doesn't have to be spiritual. It often carries that vibe, but it doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual. It could be wisdom of any kind. It could be even like going back to school, for example, or doing research and looking into things on your own, or just living life and learning things through life experiences. So Hierophant carries all of that energy. Sometimes it is the universe within itself that carries the energy of the Hierophant that teaches us lessons as well. As you see, there's a lot of red, and as you guys know by now in this series, hopefully, that I read intuitively. I'm not breaking down the literal symbolism, but just in terms of intuitively reading the cards. There's a whole lot of red representing root chakra, the base chakra energy. So our sense of security, our sense of foundation, our sense of stability, whether we feel safe or not, whether we feel secure within ourselves or not, if we're battling insecurity, etc. Also, whenever I see red, sometimes it could also represent the possibility that there may be some red flags of some sort present. Red flags do not always mean it's a deal breaker necessarily, or sometimes it could be caution signs. Sometimes it could just be things that need to be looked deeper at. It's for you to decide whether or not like a red flag or something to be cautious of is a deal breaker for you or not. But in summary, the Hierophant is that energy of lessons, community, unity, growth, wisdom, seeking knowledge, gaining knowledge, things like that. Now, on the reverse side, it could be that you are maybe wanting to take more of like it could also represent this energy of like traditions, following traditions, following certain rules and guidelines as well. So reversed, even though sometimes, like I told you guys before, I don't always read reversals, you can still get similar vibes, similar messages, even if it's upright. It just depends upon the other cards around it, the feeling you're getting, the intuitive downloads, what the question was, or whatever you're receiving in a reading. But because there's no one set meaning for any card ever. It's always going to change. So depending upon the situation and the question. So whether it's reversed or whether you're just reading it in the energy of more of a quote unquote negative light, because things are just what they are. It's not always negative or positive. You know what I mean? But it could be in a more negative sense, or maybe in a reverse sense, like the blockages in terms of maybe you feel like an outsider or an outcast. Maybe you feel like you don't fit in with the normal. Maybe that's not even a negative necessarily, because I'm also somebody who's really feels like an outcast a lot of the time, or definitely doesn't fit into the rules of society norms. So I wouldn't call it negative. Maybe to some people they might see it that way, but I wouldn't call it negative. So maybe it's more of like a blockage in terms of like fitting in to society norms and certain rules and guidelines. Maybe you're a little bit more of a rebel. Maybe you take more of an unorthodox approach to things, or an unorthodox view to things. When I think of the Hierophant reversed, or even depending upon if it's upright and the other cards around it, sometimes it gives me the energy of asking the questions that need to be asked, like asking the questions, asking source, asking creator, the universe, asking the questions that need to be asked, instead of just falling into line and following the rules, like challenging things a little bit. And like I said, taking a more unorthodox approach rather than a traditional approach to things. Maybe this is the energy of someone, whether it's you or the person you're asking about, or just the energy of the reading overall, of just being completely having a completely like questionable view of how you view people in authority, because the Hierophant can also represent certain kinds of authority figures as well, or those that are experts in something. Just for some examples, like spiritual leaders, doctors, lawyers, professors. These are just examples. You get what I'm feeling, see what I'm saying. So sometimes if it's more of a blockage energy coming through, you may be someone, or maybe the person you're reading about is someone who just may even have a little bit of some authority issues, or just constantly questions those in authority and why they're in authority, or maybe even the rules that they're setting in place, like questioning those rules and the integrity of those rules and things like that. So that's not even necessarily positive or negative, but just kind of an energy that may come through in terms of, I'm saying it's a blockage in the sense that you don't just fall in line with the rules and just do it just because that's how it's been. It's more of that energy of questioning everything and being the rebel. So that's what I was trying to say, but it kind of got all over the place. Hopefully I'm still making sense. I keep hearing the word sanctuary also. So sometimes, whether it's upright or reversed or whatever else is coming through, sometimes the Hierophant often to me represents an energy of like wanting that feeling of sanctuary or sacred space, or seeking a place that feels like sanctuary or sacred space to you. If it has more of a negative vibe to the reading versus positive, then maybe you don't feel like you have that sacred space or sanctuary and it's something you crave. That's just an example. So, and if it has a positive feel to the reading, maybe you have that or are joining it, things like that. So I think that's all I really have for you guys as far as the Hierophant goes.
True to call it peace in war times. Now we go into the Hierophant card. All right. This is the Hierophant card from the Light Seers deck, which is another tarot deck that I have. Let us begin. Tarot cards, which can mean marriage. The Hierophant card is a predictor for marriage. In fact, of all tarot cards, I believe that the Hierophant is the one most likely to symbolize marriage and engagements. The Hierophant card is very closely associated with traditional customs and the celebration which come with marriage. As it is a card which is a symbolic of traditional values, the Hierophant is also an indicator that you and your lover are culturally, religiously are invested in the sanctity of marriage. Because one or both of you hold these traditional values, you are more likely to want this for yourselves. Listen to space, vacuum, matter, earth, and time sound right reasoning. The first to be married is us, space and matter together with time. Listen to reason. When the writer speaks separately of space, matter, and time as being absolute, of course, he in fact means unlimited or absolute with each other. The interactions of space, matter, and time read like this. As this writer attempts to personify by word and meaning the existed triad of nature according to wedding vows, when a man and woman becomes husband and wife, they also become one flesh and by extension one blood too. The principles of the one supreme being are very similar, but even more binding and majestic in their applications. Infinite absolute vacuum. Space is the male person of the existence triad of nature, and infinite absolute matter is the female, and this noble couple is an eternal marriage embrace in life and death too, that enables both spouses to experience the creations and manifestations of all the other opposites in nature, and the experience and activities of all beings throughout infinite nature. Let it be remembered always, and be it known. Listen to reason. The husband magnetic vacuum germinates the wife magic matter by supplying the space and also blackness needed in the germinating processes needed are warmness, wetness, darkness, suitable matter, time, space, and the laws of nature. The unison of this royal couple, father vacuum and mother matter, produces countless offsprings like universes, orbs, male and female, spirit beings, male and female, vegetation, male and female, flesh and blood beings, male and female, and all other beings, male and female, and neuter gender of life by help of male and female factors in nature's matter. The laws of nature are the marriage vows of this majestic father and mother, and eternal absolute time is the royal preserver, keeper, everlasting continuity, and royal eternity of this lovingly noble couple of eternal embrace. Again, space, matter, and time are most eternal, never had beginning, and can never, and even if they wanted to, can never have beginning and never end, even if they wanted to. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. And that's telling you also that space is conscious, matter is conscious, and time is conscious. And Alpha Uno states here that even if they wanted to, which means that space does have the ability to want something and not want something. And even if space and matter wanted to end, meaning being married and separated, they could not. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, book 1, pages 39 through 40. Listen to sound right reason. Darkness or blackness, vacuum space, is the germinator in conception and development of life, as well as being the generator of the impregnator in the matter of absolute nature. In other words, blackness, vacuum, is the generating powers of all male impregnating forces in the matter of nature, as well as being the germinating powers. And this is why the writer maintains that the space vacuum is the male opposite of the female opposite called matter, also meaning that this noble twosome are the father Pa and the mother Ma of all persons and things past, present, and future. Vacuum blackness is germinated because it keeps the organism from being exposed to light until its formula and form are established. An example of darkness protection and germination is camera and film. If the film is exposed to light, the pictures will not develop. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. It's just to the Nature, book 3, page 78 of the PDF. Listen to space, vacuum, father, matter, mother, earth, and time, brain loop, sound right reason. The Pa, which means father or papa, is in the word space, and Ma is in the word mama. Let this be remembered, and let this be known. Here is the gematria. The Hierophant is 147. Pa and Ma are a couple is 147. Now let's look at the Hierophant from a human level. In the high priestess video, she was used to represent also a male high priest, which doesn't exist in tarot, meaning the original as far as an actual called a priest. But in some decks, they have the priest in there. All right, so a lot of times when certain statements are made like this, I'm referring to the original. Okay, but sometimes the Hierophant can operate as the priest. All right, but again, for those who dibble and dabble in tarot and stuff like that, they understand what I mean. All right, the male high priest, which doesn't exist in tarot, you can find their duties activated in the Hierophant card, as this writer vacuum tar Kinu Uno NoopooH will show in this document. Remember this well. The Hierophant tarot card traditionally represents organized religion and all the traditions that come along with it. This card usually features a pope or another religious leader. In modern retelling of the card, this archetype is more about spiritual leadership than any specific religious leader, depending on the individual tarot deck. Okay, so again, that's confirming what I just said earlier, because they had so many other tarots made and other artists' depiction of what they wanted the card to evolve into or revolve into. This is why, if you know a little bit about tarot, you know that again, like the original tarot decks look like the basic playing card decks with the puppet toes, the diamonds, the kings, the jacks. Those were like the original cards for tarot. And then later on, you start seeing the ones now with pictures on it, with words. Some have just pictures because a lot of readers who some don't even who claim to be tarot readers per se, are still able to read the card because they have their intuition playing a part in it. Their spirit guides are speaking to them, showing images, giving them emotions, depending on the situation and the questions and stuff. And plus, their true inner self is picking the cards, working in tandem with the whole event of tarot reading, which is a beautiful form and positive side of Almighty Nature. All right. Let's see. Either way, the Hierophant card brings to mind a community built upon allegiance, civil service, and a clear set of rules to live by. Right and wrong are very black and white with this card's energy. Listen to reason. The physical representative, king or queen, must be a role model who sets the right and proper example for others by adhering to Noone and the laws thereof. Since NoopooH and Noone are the true and real guide, the ruler, king or queen, is the leader in accord with the guide. The foremost purpose of the ruler is to maintain for himself and all other members of the kingdom society the fulfillment of the constitution of the kingdom and make decisions of society together with his or her helpers. The ruler is the physical god or goddess, the physical primate, prelate, high priest, and the physical sole ruler, the king or queen, who is the personification and incarnation of NoopooH, the ultimate ruler in almighty absolute nature. The physical ruler must be elected by the people of society every 9 years or removed from power before the 9-year term is up if he or she deviates from the guide. Noone and his commandment laws. The Introduction to the Nature Book 2, page 211 in part. If you are at all familiar with any organized religion, you will know that everyone is expected to follow all the rules, even if they don't resonate with or benefit them. The rules exist because it's what's best for the community. Following the rules is regarded as selfless. One community thread between most every organized religion is selflessness, and the Hierophant takes this to heart. They make every decision and action with the highest good of the masses in mind. But rules are meant to be broken, as some believe. Leaders have the power to both make and break rules, depending on the context of the reading. The Hierophant could be guiding you towards either one. Mostly, the Hierophant architect is an influential leader who is good and just. They create rules and traditional because it's what serves the community best. Institutional regulations develop from such decisions. Sometimes the result is unfavorable, but the intentions are almost always good. Beyond the responsibilities of the physical world, the Hierophant has the responsibility of passing on spiritual wisdom. Established beliefs and values must be upheld through the generations. Most of the aforementioned institutions and rules are based upon these beliefs. The Hierophant reverse. When the Hierophant tarot card is reversed or upside down in a reading, it might be time to challenge long-standing traditions, especially those built on outdated values within unequal institutions. Listen to reason. Religion is ethereal signs of the moon cycle and those who profit from religion, but it has no place in true culture society or the Libra cycle. The same way each time their conditions are the same. All religion is outdated and obsolete, made so by modern mundane science and its high technology, plus the fact that Noone is the new order of persons, places, and things. It is true that religion is the secret and clandestine worship of nature and the spirit dead, as the writer has shown in Noone already, including the preparation booklet in book 1, and will further show in the following information. This writer has stated before in Noone that religion belongs to the moon cycle, and he now adds, and those who profit from religion. Religion has done little or nothing for the Ethiopian race, but make its members mental zombies and cripples, spiritual pawns, and also scapegoats and physical slaves in service. And it's why Law 80 of this paragraph is so very appropriate for black people. Religion is very racist, and they hidden in a one-sided way, and Noone will help to correct this and other transgressions of the laws of absolute nature. Then too, religion is very deceptive, spellbinding by the powers of necromancy, instead of us having the power of positive knowledge, understanding, and wisdom like Noone. Let it be remembered always. Listen to reason. One might ask, why do you say that religion is old and outdated and obsolete? Since religion was created beginning 6,000 years ago, at the time of Adam and Eve, persons and places and things have evolved out of its perimeter and circle of order, which is the moon cycle. For example, the Old Testament of the Caucasian Bible, called the Holy Bible, claims that people tried to go to heaven by attempting to build a Tower of Babel for that purpose, but God stopped them by confounding their tongue. But today, we see people sending projectiles and spacecraft into outer space and going into orbit themselves around planet Earth. So where is that God today who said yesterday that he never changes? Then too, religion has served its purpose of getting people through the moon cycle by deception and giving them hope and courage. Let it be remembered always, let it be known. Introduction to Nature, Book 2, pages 245 to 246. Another interpretation of the reverse Hierophant card is a selfish leader archetype, someone who has power and influence but is using it for selfish gain and not for the betterment of the people they're leading. Similar to the Emperor card, tyrant leaders will never be successful. Depending on the context of the tarot card spread story, the reverse Hierophant could be depicting a situation where spiritual wisdom is being ignored. Most of the time, we already have the answers, or the answers are not far away. Ether knowledge is meant to coexist with logical reasoning in part. The physical ruler must be elected by the people of society every 9 years or removed from power before the 9-year term is up if he or she deviates from the God, Noone, and its commandment laws. Here's the gematria. Got the Hierophant card. It's 88. Rule of true culture, which is 88. Again, for those who know the information, know that true culture will be established in the future after the cataclysm, which will be February 5th, 2029, where Afro Unu will be 18. All right, or his next title will be Afro NoopooH. All right, and whatever other names that will come with that. All right, so let's continue. The future rulers of true culture society in Africa will be the Hierophant card in flesh and blood as the example. Let this be remembered and let this be known. Truman the cosmic peace in war times.